Jimin hid his pain. Jungkook found him crying and vowed never to leave again. "Taehyung, why are you crying in the dark?" The words fell like shattered glass into the silence. The hallway was empty, dimly lit by a flickering bulb, but the door Jungkook stood before was ajar, just enough for the shadows to bleed out and the sound of broken sobs to slip through like ghosts in the night. His hand trembled on the doorknob. Inside, the room was drowning in darkness. No lamp, no window open. Only the faint glow from the hallway spilled across the floor like a timid visitor. And there, curled up against the farthest wall, was Jimin, knees drawn to his chest, face hidden, shoulders quaking with silent cries he couldn't swallow anymore. Jungkook didn't move for a heartbeat. He had seen Jimin smile in front of cameras, laugh on stages, crack jokes at practice. He had seen Jimin tired, quiet, even distant. But he had never seen him cry like this, raw, crumpled, undone. "Jimin Taehyung, what happened?" Jungkook right-quote's voice broke. Jimin flinched, not from the words, but from the sound of being found. His hands slowly slid from his face, revealing eyes red as winter frost and cheeks soaked in sorrow. His lips parted, but no sound came. His voice had been buried under layers of silence too long. "Go away," Jimin whispered, his voice hoarse and empty. But Jungkook stepped in anyway. The door clicked shut behind him. The air was thick, the kind that wrapped around your lungs and refused to let go. The scent of dried sweat, faint cologne, and something metallic, blood, hung in the air. Jungkook right-quote's eyes adjusted slowly, but his heart had already sprinted ahead. "I'm not going anywhere," Jungkook said, sitting down beside him without asking. Jimin turned his head away, ashamed of being seen like this. The facade he built every day had finally cracked, and now the pieces lay scattered on the floor like broken porcelain. "It's not what you think," Jimin muttered. "Then tell me what it is." A pause, a silence so loud it screamed. Jimin exhaled. "Sometimes, it feels like everything I do is a performance, even when I'm alone." Jungkook didn't speak. He waited. Jimin continued, his voice brittle. "And when the curtain closes, there's nothing left, just me, and I don't like who that is." The confession sat between them like a wound, gaping and raw. Jungkook clenched his fists. "You don't have to do this alone." "You say that now." Jimin gave a bitter laugh, not because it was funny, but because it hurt too much to cry again. "But people leave." "Not me." Jimin turned toward him slowly, searching his face for cracks, for lies. "Why are you here, really?" Jungkook looked at him, truly looked, and for a moment the room didn't feel so suffocating. "Because I heard something break, and I hoped it wasn't you." Tears welled again in Jimin right-quote's eyes, faster this time, like a dam finally giving in. He didn't fight them, not this time. Jungkook didn't reach to wipe them away. He just sat closer, their shoulders almost touching. The silence shifted, warmer now. Safe. "I had a dream last night," Jimin murmured. "That I was screaming, but no sound came out. No one could hear me." "I hear you," Jungkook said softly. "Even when you don't speak, even when you think no one can." Something inside Jimin shattered, quietly, beautifully. Not like glass this time, but like chains falling to the ground. "I'm tired," Jimin admitted. "Then rest," Jungkook whispered. "I'll stay." Jimin hesitated, then let his head fall onto Jungkook right-quote's shoulder. It was the smallest movement, but it carried the weight of every smile he'd faked, every moment he'd swallowed back tears, every time he convinced himself that he didn't deserve softness. The room remained dark, but the night didn't feel quite so heavy anymore. And as Jungkook sat beside him, feeling the trembling start to fade beneath his skin, he made a vow, not just in words, but in breath, in presence, in silence. He would never leave Jimin again. "You lied to me, didn't you?" Jungkook right-quote's voice cracked the stillness of the empty practice room like a whip, sharp and furious. Jimin froze mid-step, his back to him, fingers curled into fists at his sides. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was suffocating, electric, and vibrating with tension. Jimin didn't answer right away. He stared at the cracked mirror in front of him, the one they always practiced in. His reflection was distorted, fractured, split across broken glass. Just like him, just like everything. I asked you a question, Jungkook hissed. Jimin turned slowly, his face unreadable. I've lied about a lot of things. You'll have to be more specific. Jungkook right quote as jaw clenched. He took a step forward. You said you were okay. You said that night in the dark room was the only time, that it wouldn't happen again. Jimin right quote S eyes dropped. Shame pooled in them like ink. I wanted it to be true. You cut yourself again, didn't you? The words echoed, loud, merciless. Jimin winced as if slapped but said nothing. His silence was answer enough. Jungkook right quote S breath hitched. Why the hell would you? After everything we talked about, how could you? Because you left, Jimin snapped, voice rising like a sudden storm. You said you'd stay, you said you'd never leave again, and then you disappeared. Jungkook staggered back a step, as if physically hit. I didn't disappear, I had to go. They called me to Japan for the performance. And you didn't tell me, Jimin shouted. You just left like everyone else. I thought you were better, Jungkook said quietly. Well, I was, Jimin right quote S voice broke. I'm not, I don't know how to be. Jungkook looked at him and the fire in his eyes dimmed. I'm sorry. Jimin turned back to the mirror, watching himself through the spider web of cracks. It's not just about the pain, he said softly. Sometimes, it's the only thing that reminds me I'm still here. Jungkook crossed the room in 2 strides and spun him around. Don't ever say that again. Why? Jimin laughed bitterly. Because it scares you. No, Jungkook said, gripping his shoulders. Because I can't lose you, not like this, not without a fight. Jimin looked at him, truly looked, and saw tears rising in Jungkook right quote S eyes. Not from pity, from fear, from love, from helplessness. I've been seeing someone, Jimin whispered. Jungkook blinked. What? A therapist, he clarified, and something like guilt flashed across his face. For a few months, but I stopped going after you left. It felt pointless. Jungkook right quote S grip loosened. You didn't tell me. I didn't want to disappoint you if it didn't work. I'd rather know you're trying and failing than pretending everything's fine, Jungkook said. Jimin right quote S lip trembled. It's hard, Kook, so hard, and sometimes I wonder if I deserve to get better. You do, Jungkook said without hesitation, even on your worst day. You deserve better than this pain. They stood in silence, 2 boys in a room that had seen their sweat, their laughter, and now their rage and wounds. Then Jungkook whispered, Tell me everything. Jimin hesitated. Everything. I want it all. No lies, no filters. If we're going to get through this, I need the truth. So Jimin told him, about the first time he felt like he didn't belong, about the expectations, the voice in his head that was never quiet, the years of smiling while his insides screamed, the pressure to be perfect, the way sleep was no longer rest, just a pause from pretending. He told Jungkook about the days he didn't eat, didn't speak, didn't move, about the way compliments felt like knives, about the terror of being seen and the deeper terror of being invisible. Jungkook didn't interrupt, didn't judge. He just listened. And when Jimin was done, Jungkook pulled him into a crushing hug that felt more like a promise than any words ever could. I can't save you, Jungkook whispered into his hair, but I'll walk with you every step. Jimin trembled in his arms. I'm scared you'll hate what you find. I've already seen the darkness, Jungkook said, but I'm still here. Jimin pulled away just enough to look at him. Then help me break the mirror. What? I don't want to see this version of myself anymore. I want to start again. Without hesitation, Jungkook picked up the wooden bat from the corner of the room, a leftover from stage props, and handed it to Jimin. Break it. Jimin gripped the bat, his hands shaking. He stared into the mirror, into the eyes of the boy who had spent so long pretending, and then swung. The crash was deafening. Shards exploded in every direction, like starlight and destruction all at once. And when the glass settled, all that was left was a boy holding a bat, breathing heavily, bleeding slightly from his knuckles, but free. Jungkook stepped beside him, grabbed his hand and whispered, "Now let's rebuild." From somewhere deep inside, Jimin smiled. Not a mask, not a lie, just a flicker of something real. He was ready, or at least ready to try. And this time, he wouldn't be alone. "You told him." Taehyung's voice was low, sharp, like a wire pulled taut. His eyes burned into Jimin with a heat that made the room feel suddenly too small. The rehearsal studio was empty except for the two of them, and the soundproofed walls couldn't contain the thunder rolling between them. Jimin looked away, guilt heavy on his face. He needed to know. "Did he?" Taehyung stepped closer. "Or did you just need someone else to carry your pain?" "That's not fair." "No, Jimin. What's not fair is that you promised me you never say anything. You swore this would stay between us." "I didn't tell him about you," Jimin said, voice barely a whisper. "Only about me." "But it won't stop there," Taehyung snapped. "You know him, he'll dig. And what happens when he finds out what we did?" Jimin flinched. The weight of the memory pressed down on his chest like a stone. That night, drunken, chaotic, filled with words they never meant and touches they never talked about again, was supposed to stay buried. "He won't," Jimin said. "I won't let him." Taehyung laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You think secrets stay buried just because you close your eyes? That's not how this works." "He's not like that," Jimin said, but even as the words left his mouth, he wasn't sure if he believed them. "You don't know who he is anymore," Taehyung said coldly. "He's changed. We all have. And you think he's here to save you, but maybe he's just here to watch you fall." Jimin's voice trembled. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you're dragging us all down with you." The words struck harder than any slap. Jimin stood frozen, pain blooming behind his eyes like a bruise. He opened his mouth to reply, but the door behind them creaked open, and Jungkook stood in the doorway, eyes wide, face pale. "How long have you been standing there?" Taehyung asked, the color draining from his face. "Long enough," Jungkook said, voice flat. "What did you mean by what we did?" Taehyung looked at Jimin. Jimin looked at the floor. "Answer me." No one spoke. The silence was nuclear. Jungkook stepped into the room, shutting the door behind him like he was sealing in a fire. "What happened between you two?" Jimin's lips parted, but no sound came. "Say it," Jungkook demanded. "Say it or I'll assume the worst." Taehyung's voice was strangely calm now. "It wasn't love. It wasn't even real. It was pain, Jungkook, manifested in the worst way. A moment of weakness. You don't have to turn it into something more." But Jungkook's eyes had already darkened. "So it's true. You slept together." "It wasn't like that," Jimin said quickly. "It wasn't something we planned. I was broken. He was too. It just—" "Stop," Jungkook said. "Just stop." Jimin moved forward. "Please, listen to me." "You said I was the only one who knew," Jungkook whispered. "You said no one else saw you like that." "I didn't lie," Jimin said, tears prickling. "Not really, not about the pain." Jungkook's voice cracked. "But you gave it to him, not me." "You weren't there," Jimin shouted suddenly, voice rising into something raw and ugly. "You left, and I didn't want to feel alone anymore. I didn't want to feel anything. He was there, he stayed." Taehyung looked away, jaw clenched. Jungkook's chest heaved. "I was trying to protect you," Jimin said, quieter now. "From everything from me." "You think lying protects me?" Jungkook asked, stepping back as if Jimin's very presence burned him. "You think hiding the truth makes this better?" I didn't know what else to do. The room felt like it was collapsing, walls tightening around them. "I thought you were mine," Jungkook said bitterly. I thought if I stayed it meant something." Jimin reached out. "It does." Jungkook shook his head. "Not anymore." He turned to leave, but Taehyung stepped in front of the door. "Don't walk away." "Why not?" Jungkook spat. "So you can both tear me apart together." Taehyung didn't move. "We all made mistakes, but running won't fix anything." "Then maybe I don't want to fix it," Jungkook said. "Maybe I just want to forget all of this happened." The room plunged into a silence, so thick it could drown a man. Then Jimin spoke, voice hollow. If you walk out now, I won't stop you. But I need you to know this. What happened between me and Taehyung wasn't love. It wasn't betrayal. It was two broken people clinging to a moment of numbness. But what I feel for you, it's the only thing that's ever felt real. Jungkook stood still, back to them. Look at me, Jimin whispered. He didn't. Please. Jungkook turned, slowly, eyes red, jaw clenched so tight it could break. I don't know if I can forgive you, he said. Not now, maybe not ever. I'm not asking you to, Jimin replied. I'm just asking you not to forget who we were, who we could be. Jungkook looked at him, then at Taehyung, then back again. The silence spun like a blade between them, and no one knew who would bleed first. Then, without another word, Jungkook walked out. Not running, not storming, just walking. And this time, he didn't promise to come back. Jimin sank to the floor, chest heaving, hands trembling. Taehyung knelt beside him. I'm sorry. I ruined everything, Jimin whispered. No, Taehyung said quietly. The truth did. But neither of them knew which was worse. Open the door, Jungkook, please. Jimin's voice trembled as he knocked again, harder this time, the sound echoing down the silent corridor of Jungkook's apartment building. Rain slammed against the windows outside like it was trying to get in too. Inside, the lights were off. No footsteps, no movement, just the wall between them, thicker now than ever. I know you're in there, Jimin whispered, pressing his forehead against the cold wood. You haven't been at practice, you haven't replied. I'm not leaving until we talk. Nothing, just that awful silence again. He slid down to the floor and sat against the door, legs curled up to his chest, soaked from the rain he hadn't waited to dry off from. Time slipped by in seconds and eternities. When the doorknob finally clicked, his heart stopped. The door creaked open an inch, and then Jungkook appeared in the shadowed doorway, hair disheveled, face blank. Not angry, not warm, just gone. Jimin looked up. Hi. Jungkook stared at him for a long time before stepping aside wordlessly. Jimin rose slowly, every movement heavy, and entered the apartment. It smelled faintly of coffee and old vinyl records, familiar and distant at the same time. The living room was dim, a single lamp casting long shadows on the walls. Jimin stood in the center, not knowing where to go or what to say. You shouldn't have come, Jungkook said, closing the door with a soft thud. I didn't know what else to do. That's the thing, isn't it? Jungkook said quietly. You never know. Jimin turned. I'm not here to ask for forgiveness. I'm here because I couldn't breathe knowing you hated me. I don't hate you. Then say something, Jimin begged. Scream, hit me, anything. Jungkook stepped forward, his voice cold. You want honesty? Fine. I look at you, and I see the person who made me believe I was the only one that mattered, and then proved I was. I was falling apart, Jimin said, and I made a mistake, a terrible one, but I never stopped loving you. You don't get to say that. But it's true. Jungkook's laugh was bitter. You think love is enough. You think love erases the image of you and him tangled in something that should have been ours. It wasn't about him, Jimin said. It was about me, about losing pieces of myself and grabbing onto whatever I could to survive. Jungkook shook his head. You say that like it excuses everything. It doesn't, Jimin said. But I'm not here with excuses. I'm here because I've lost so many things already. I don't want to lose you too. Jungkook stared at him, his face twitching with the war inside. Do you want the truth, Jimin? The real truth? Yes. I can't stop loving you, Jungkook said. Even when I try, even when I replay what you did over and over, I still want to reach for you at night. I still look for you when I laugh, and I hate that. Jimin took a step forward. Then stop fighting it, we can. But I don't trust you. That silenced the room, like a bullet. Jimin swallowed. Then let me earn it back. How? Jungkook snapped. How do you rebuild something you shattered with your own hands? Brick by brick, Jimin whispered. Even if it takes the rest of my life. Jungkook looked at him, a storm raging in his eyes. Then, suddenly, he turned away. There's something you do know, something he didn't tell you. What are you talking about? Jungkook walked to a drawer, pulled out a folded piece of paper, and handed it to Jimin. He came to see me, after it happened, said he thought I deserved to know, said it wasn't the first time. Jimin's heart dropped. That's a lie. Is it? Jungkook asked, voice shaking. Tell me right now it was the only time. Jimin hesitated. His mind raced. It was, I swear to you it was. Then why would he say otherwise? Because he wants to destroy what's left, Jimin said. He's drowning and he wants to pull me down with him. Why didn't you cut him off? Because I felt responsible, Jimin cried. Because he's been hurting too, and damn it, I didn't know how to let go without making it worse. Jungkook stepped forward, grabbing Jimin's face with both hands, forcing him to look into his eyes. Are you still protecting him? No, Jimin said, voice breaking. I'm only trying to fix what I broke with you. Jungkook's breath was ragged. For a moment, neither moved. Then their foreheads touched, a whisper of closeness that hurt more than distance. I don't know how to forgive you, Jungkook said, but I can't let go of you either. Then hold on to me, Jimin said, even if it's just barely. And Jungkook did. They stood there, broken pieces trying to fit again. Not perfectly, not completely, but desperately. Outside, the storm still raged. Inside, two hearts tried to survive it. You lied to both of us. The words exploded like gunfire in the dim backstage corridor. Taehyung stood at the far end of the hallway, shoulders squared, fists clenched at his sides. His eyes, once warm with mischief and silent understanding, were now burning coals. Jungkook's back was turned, but he paused mid-step. Jimin stood frozen between them, like a soldier caught between two snipers with no clear enemy and no safe ground. Jungkook turned slowly. You should leave. Taehyung stepped forward. Not until I say what I came here to say. I don't need to hear your version of history, Jungkook said, his voice calm but threatening. You already rewrote enough of it. Taehyung scoffed. Funny, coming from someone who thinks he's the only victim in this. Jimin stepped between them, panic tightening in his throat. Stop it, please, this isn't helping. Taehyung ignored him. You think you're the only one who bled. You weren't there the nights I picked up his pieces when no one else noticed he was slipping. You mean the nights you used his pain to make yourself feel needed? Jungkook spat. You weren't there, Jungkook, Taehyung's voice cracked. You left, you always leave. You're good at promises and bad at staying. Don't you dare, Jungkook warned, stepping closer. Don't you twist this. Oh, I don't have to twist anything, Taehyung growled. He came to me because he needed something you weren't giving him, and deep down, you know it. Jimin pushed them apart with trembling hands. Enough. Both of them stopped, breathing heavy, eyes locked like wolves ready to tear each other apart. Jimin turned to Taehyung first, voice low and pained. You don't get to use my lowest moments as ammunition. Taehyung's mouth tightened. I'm not. You are, Jimin said. What happened between us was wrong, but I let it happen. I take responsibility, and I'm trying to fix it. Taehyung shook his head. You can't fix it. You think just because you cry and confess and fall into his arms, everything resets. No, Jungkook cut in, his voice suddenly softer, more dangerous. But he's trying, which is more than you've done. Taehyung laughed, bitter and broken. You think you know everything, but there's more, Jungkook, more than he told you. You think I'm the only one with blood on my hands. What are you talking about? Jimin asked, his voice faint. Taehyung looked at him, eyes blazing. Tell him about the pills. Jimin went still. Jungkook blinked. What? Taehyung stepped closer, voice shaking now with rage and something deeper, betrayal. The ones you flushed down the drain. The ones meant to keep you from spiraling. You told your therapist you were taking them, but you stopped. Tell him. Jimin, Jungkook's voice was barely audible. Jimin's chest heaved. I didn't want them anymore. They made me numb. They made you stable, Taehyung snapped. And you stopped without telling anyone. I wanted to feel again, Jimin cried. I was tired of being a ghost inside my own skin. So you put yourself at risk. You put all of us at risk, Taehyung's voice cracked. You let us believe you were getting better. I was getting better, Jimin whispered, until I was. Jungkook looked at him, pain and confusion swirling in his eyes. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want you to see me like that again, Jimin said. I didn't want you to look at me like I was broken. You think hiding it makes you less broken? Jungkook asked. You think lies are easier to love? Jimin's voice trembled. I think I was scared and ashamed. Taehyung stepped back, his voice hollow now. You can keep pretending, both of you, but the truth always comes back. Then he left, the door swinging shut behind him with a finality that echoed in all three of them. Jimin sank to the floor, hands shaking violently. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Jungkook knelt beside him, his voice uneven. You should have told me. I thought I could handle it. You were wrong. I know. Silence filled the room, heavy and intimate. Jungkook looked at Jimin, this boy he loved so much it physically hurt, and saw someone unraveling, not because he wanted to, but because he didn't know how to hold himself together anymore. Jungkook reached into his jacket and pulled out a small velvet box. Jimin blinked. What is that? I was going to give it to you, Jungkook said, after the tour. He opened the box. Inside was a silver ring, simple, beautiful, engraved on the inside. Even in the dark, I'll find you, it read. Jimin stared at it, breath catching. Jungkook's voice shook, but now I don't know if I should. Tears spilled down Jimin's cheeks, silent and relentless. Then keep it, until you're ready, until I've earned it. Jungkook didn't reply. He just held the box in his palm, both of them staring at the promise it held. Outside the room, the world spun as if nothing had happened. Inside, two hearts remained, fractured, trying to beat in rhythm again. Not healed, but still fighting. The hotel room was far too quiet for a night like this. Jimin stood at the window, his forehead pressed against the cool glass, watching Seoul flicker and blink like 1,000 tiny secrets too exhausted to be hidden anymore. Behind him, the tension hung like smoke in a room after a fire. Something had burned, and neither he nor Jungkook could name it yet. But they both felt the ash settling in their lungs. I saw you with him today. Jungkook's voice came from behind, low and slow like a blade dragged across stone. Jimin closed his eyes before turning. It wasn't what it looked like, he said. Then explain it to me, Jungkook said, leaning against the wall, arms crossed, that unreadable look plastered across his face, the one that said he was both calm and seconds away from shattering. Explain why you were holding his face like you were about to kiss him. Jimin exhaled hard. He was crying, I was trying to. Comfort him, Jungkook snapped, with your hands on his mouth like that. He broke down backstage, Jimin said, stepping forward. He told me everything, about what he said to you, about the pills, about the guilt. He was falling apart, Jungkook. So you caught him. I would have done the same for you. But you're not supposed to have to. Jimin's shoulders dropped. You don't get to gatekeep my compassion. I do when it's him, Jungkook growled. You don't see it, but he still wants you. Every word he says is a test, every look is a dare. Then I'll fail every time, Jimin said, because I choose you. But you didn't tell me, Jungkook replied, voice cold. Again, you didn't tell me you were seeing him, not even as a friend. Because I knew you, react like this. Like what? Jungkook pushed off the wall. Like someone who's been dragged through hell for you and is now afraid you're lighting the matches again. Jimin looked at him, and something in his expression broke. Do you think I want this chaos? Do you think I enjoy being the person who keeps hurting everyone? Sometimes I wonder, Jungkook muttered. The words landed like a slap. Jimin's mouth parted, but no sound came. Then he nodded, slowly, tears brimming but not falling. Okay. Jungkook flinched. Jimin, I didn't mean. No, Jimin whispered. It's fine, you've been holding it in, say it all. I don't want to hurt you. But you already are. Jungkook ran his hands through his hair, packing now. You don't understand what it's like to love someone and be scared of them at the same time. Jimin's voice was hollow. Yes, I do. They stared at each other in the dim glow of the room, the hum of city traffic the only background noise. And then Jimin walked toward the drawer, the one where Jungkook had hidden the ring box. He pulled it out. "Do you still mean it?" he asked, holding the box in both hands. "Even in the dark, you'll find me." Jungkook closed his eyes. "Yes." "Then find this version of me," Jimin said, voice breaking. "Not the perfect one you imagined, not the one who never slips, not the one who never fails you." "You think I don't know you're messy?" Jungkook's voice rose. "You think I don't know how haunted you are? I fell in love with you because you're cracked, not despite it." "Then stop punishing me for bleeding." "I'm punishing myself," Jungkook shouted, "for still needing you even when it hurts." Jimin's lips quivered. "Then what do we do?" Silence. Then Jungkook walked over slowly. He took the box from Jimin's hands and opened it again. He stared at the ring like it was a weapon or a prayer. Maybe both. And then he slid it onto Jimin's finger. "You're mine," Jungkook said. "And I'll fight for you, but if you betray me again, I won't survive it." "I won't," Jimin whispered. "I swear on everything left of me." But just as their breaths mingled and their foreheads touched, the door burst open. Namjoon stood in the doorway, eyes blazing. "You two need to come with me, now." "What's going on?" Jungkook asked, startled. Namjoon threw a folded piece of paper on the bed. "Dispatch! Leaked! Everything!" Jimin's blood ran cold. He lunged for the paper. A headline stared back at him. "Secret relationship between BTS members exposed. Photos suggest love triangle between Jimin, Jungkook, and V." Jungkook's breath caught. Photos blurry but damning. Taehyung wiping Jimin's tears. Jungkook storming away, Jimin's hand on Taehyung's cheek. Everything twisted into a narrative they didn't control. Jimin staggered back. "They know." Namjoon looked at both of them grim. "The company wants statements. Now, damage control before it gets worse." Jungkook's face paled. "What if it does get worse?" "Then we burn," Namjoon said. "But we burn together." As the room erupted into chaos, calls, plans, lawyers, Jimin sat on the bed, staring at his ringed hand, wondering if love alone could survive the firestorm that was coming. Because the truth was out now. And truth, no matter how painful, doesn't ask for permission to destroy. It started with a single post. Then another and another. Within minutes, timelines exploded. Fans from every corner of the world flooded the internet, some in disbelief, some in pain, some in defense. Hashtags trended. The images were dissected, interpreted, twisted. Conspiracies bloomed. The company released a carefully worded statement denying romantic involvement between the members, citing misunderstood friendship and fabricated narratives. But no one believed it. Not anymore. Inside the dorm, the silence was deafening. Jimin sat at the kitchen table, a mug of untouched tea cooling in his hands. Across from him, Jungkook sat rigid, his phone face down like it had betrayed him. Taehyung was gone, disappeared into the city hours ago without a word. Namjoon, exhausted, had left the room after yet another call with the legal team. The storm had passed, but the wreckage remained. "They want me to go on hiatus," Jimin said, voice dull. Jungkook looked up. "What?" "They think it's better if I step back for a while, until the public forgets." "No," Jungkook said firmly. "We face this together." "I'm tired," Jimin said, "of being a symbol, of being torn apart by a narrative I never agreed to." "You're not alone," Jungkook insisted. "You never were." "But I feel like I am," Jimin whispered. "Even now, even with you here." Jungkook reached across the table and took his hand. "You're not." Their fingers laced, and for a moment the ache dulled. But the silence that followed wasn't healing. It was heavy. Jimin stood up and walked toward the window, looking out at the city he'd given his life to. "They'll never see us the same way again," he murmured. Jungkook walked to him, wrapping his arms around his waist from behind, pressing his forehead between Jimin's shoulder blades. "Then let them see us differently," he said. "Let them see the truth." Jimin leaned into the touch, eyes closing. Even if it costs us everything. If it's real, it's worth everything. Behind them, the door creaked. Taehyung stood there, drenched from the rain, face pale, eyes shadowed with something older than regret. "I'm leaving," he said quietly. Jimin turned. "What?" "I told the company I'll take the heat. I'll say it was all a misunderstanding, that I crossed a line and it wasn't mutual. I'll protect you both." "No," Jungkook said sharply. "You don't have to martyr yourself." Taehyung laughed weakly. "Don't be dramatic, I'm not dying. I just need space, from all of this, from myself." Jimin walked to him, standing only inches away. "I never hated you." "I know," Taehyung said, "but that didn't stop me from hating myself." They embraced quietly. It wasn't forgiveness, it wasn't closure, but it was something human. As Taehyung left, a silence followed, not heavy but strange, like the air after thunder. The days that followed were chaos. Press, rehearsals, rumors, fights, meetings, cancellations, support, hate, love. But amid all that, Jimin stayed. He didn't leave the group. He didn't hide. He didn't let fear tell his story anymore. And Jungkook was always there, on stage, off stage, in the quiet moments when the world stopped watching. They never publicly confirmed or denied anything. They didn't have to. Their truth lived in the way they stood closer than before. In the way Jimin's hand lingered on Jungkook's back as they bowed. In the way Jungkook looked at him when the lights dimmed. Months passed. The scandal faded, replaced by the next news cycle. The world moved on. But something in them had changed, hardened, healed, transformed. Late one night, in the studio, Jimin whispered into the stillness, "Do you regret it?" Jungkook didn't look up from his guitar. No. Not even the pain. Jungkook strummed a single chord. "Especially not the pain. That's how I know it mattered." Jimin smiled softly. "We survived it." Jungkook met his eyes. "We did." And for once, there was nothing left to hide. No masks. No lies. Just love, quiet, real, and finally free.